Oh, hey, what's happening there, YouTube? It's Brian House here for Housework, and today is one of my favorite days of the week, and it's called Prototyping Day. And this particular prototype is very near and dear to my heart because after last week when I released the pictures and drawings out to social media, I was basically told that this wouldn't work and that it's impossible. And if you know me, I love a challenge, and I kind of want to prove some people wrong, so hey, why not? Let's build it today. The prototype I'm talking about is a new fine-tuning tracking mechanism for the Revolution 2x72 belt grinder project. If you're not familiar with that project, I'll link to it right up here so you can go out and see the process of how we put this whole thing together. It was actually a really cool process. I came out to you on YouTube to talk about my idea for a new belt grinder, and the reception was so positive that it basically became the last year of my life. You all came back to me with your design concepts and your ideas and helped me make it better. So every time I share something out here on YouTube, through collaboration, the design is always better, and I do truly appreciate you. So thank you so much to everyone who has written in and sent me drawings and emails. I got so many people from the second and third generation of this that stepped up and said, like, hey, this is how I think you should do it. And you know, they gave me some really great ideas, which ultimately led me to where I am today, which is the drawing in Fusion. It's a pretty simple prototype. It looks complicated, but it's really not. It's essentially, I'm trying to get this tracking mechanism to work in the up and down axes and then the left and right, so that it's like kind of coming at you and back and forth. Now, when you do fine or minor adjustments to the tracking on the axis that's kind of coming towards the user or away from the user, that's when those adjustments are so fine, they're so small that to actually get the machine to track right in forward and reverse, it's a little bit of a headache because you got to turn the machine off and so on and so on. You got back and forth till you get it right. Not that it's impossible, because it's not, and I've done it many times. But what I'm trying to do is improve that functionality to make it easier, faster, and better, so that, like, say you get a belt that's a little bit off, it's stretched, maybe you're using a surface conditioning belt, whatever it might be, you're able to adjust that tracking on the fly. I think this is so valuable that I dedicated kind of like the last 2 weeks of my life to actually figuring this all out. I've yet to prototype it though. And when I released those drawings and the video out to social media, I got a lot of positive reception on it. But I did get quite a few people who said it's not going to work. So anyhow, that's our project for today. We're going to prototype this thing, we're going to build it, and then we're going to see if it actually works. Now, this won't be the most refined version of this or the most elegant. And in fact, I'm sure there's some things that I could improve upon in this design. So if you have anything that you would like to see changed, or maybe something that could make it better, please leave me a comment down below, and I'll take it into consideration, and through collaboration, we'll make this project happen. So the first step to this is I'm going to go over to the Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro, and we're going to cut out all of the plate steel. There's some 1/2 inch and there's some 1/4 inch that needs to be cut out, and then we'll start looking at the mock-up. So this is the first piece of the cut. This is 1/2 inch plate. You can see I got a little bit of a bevel there on each one of these cuts. It's not too bad. The Crossfire Pro does a great job with 1/2 inch plate, and I feel like if I would refine the process a little bit in the G code, that I would be able to achieve much better cuts on 1/2 inch. I just haven't really sat down and figured that whole thing out yet. Nothing that can't be solved by using the grinder. So we'll go clean this up, and then we'll cut some 1/4 inch plate. All right, so we got all of our plate steel cut here. Got to do a little bit of refinement on these. I'd take a file to this center part so that this tab would slide in. That's pretty common when you're working with plasma, but that for a first time out, that looks pretty good. And then this guy here we ground down, kind of flattened it out. We've got a couple of things we need to do on each one of those. And then also we've got some dom here. This is, I buy this on McMaster-Carr. I can't remember the sizing of it, but the interior diameter is just over 0.25. And that we need to cut a piece that will fit here so we can weld that up. And you can see where we're going with this. So this is going to sit here like this, and this is going to be down in there like that. And that will be the hinging system. And so we need to drill some holes and cut some dom, and yeah, it's coming along pretty nice. I'm really impressed with how this is turning out so far, but hey, will it work? I don't know. Okay, so now we're going to drill and tap our hole for our 1/2" 13 thread. Okay, so now we got our 1/2" 13 threaded hole there. We have to drill a 1/4" hole through these two top pieces of this plate to allow for the fulcrum bolt. Just going to do that right here in the mill. All right, so we got this thing drilled through slightly on one side, just a little bit over to allow for a little bit more movement on the hinge here. But yeah, so now we gotta cut our dom and figure out how long or how wide we want that. The easiest way to do that is just measure the distance. It should be about 3/4 inch, and it is. So I'll make it slightly under that, and then we'll weld it up to this piece right here. A little bit of a tight fit, we'll have to file that out. All right, so now we got this all lined up and magnetized down. I'm just going to pop a quick tack weld right here. Something to take note of, though, I've done a couple of designs like this already, so I know this, but you don't want to put too much weld in here because it'll impede the hinging. So just a couple of tacks in there for now so we can get everything lined up. Now we need a 1/4" hole on this little tiny tab that's sticking out. This is what's going to attach itself to the tracking mechanism. So just need it to be 1/4" because the bolt is just going to go through it, and it's going to be lock nut on one side and another nut on the other. this tab sits down in there, and the bolt will feed through it like this, and then this lock nut will go on the other side, and when this is turned in that threaded tab, it'll pull the mechanism back and forth ever so slightly. That's the theory anyway. So all right, so the last thing we got to do here is drill and tap this 1/4 20. All right, so we've got most of it put together here. We're gonna see how it all fits. All right, so the goal here is to thread this through this piece. Ideally, this would be a knob. I don't have any knobs right now, so thread this through this piece. We're going to thread this on. This is going to be our backward stop, just for now. I need just a little bit more, like that. And then this lock nut goes on the back side. And the theory is that if these are loose enough, should be able to pop a weld right there, and this whole situation should go back and forth. Hey, look at that. I can actually turn the whole thing quite a bit. Looks like about 4 millimeters in each direction. Oh, sweet Jesus. Gotta love that. I was sweating there for a minute and I was like, wait a minute. This isn't gonna work. Oh yeah. Let's see. Loosen this up just a little bit more. Yeah. Again, this is a prototype, so I'm not gonna, make real super clean welds on it just yet. I might go over it with some TIG. I clean some of those things up, but I just really want to see if I'll be able to actually get the functionality I want out of this. This is just a lock nut, and again, prototyping, I'm using what I have in my shop to try to make this work. This would probably be some other type of hardware, to make all this happen, but for now it works, or I hope it will anyway. And then another lock nut on the other side, and what that's going to do is it's going to create a situation where this tab will get locked into place. Since that's just a through hole, not a tapped hole, that will sort of capture that tab in the whole mechanism inside, because this is the threaded piece. I'll loosen this up a little bit. Oh yeah, actually getting some movement, and quite a bit of movement. That's what I was looking for. Just adjust that slightly. Let me get a little bit more play in there. Oh, see, this lock nut coming loose. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. Kind of find the balance between these two things here. I'm already seeing quite a bit of play by just turning this knob in either direction. And that's exactly what I wanted. So just to be clear on this, this is a fine-tuning situation. The other knob, this guy here, this is still going to thread through, and it's still going to do its job, just like on the other mechanisms I've built, where it's designed to move this hinge up and down. The reality of this entire mechanism is really just to tune the grinder initially, and down the road, if something kind of comes out of whack and you need to adjust that mechanism so that the wheel sits a little bit better, so for forward and reverse tuning, I really feel like this will change the way people run their grinders, because it's just going to be that much more efficient. So as you can see, this knob is still doing its job, right? And this knob is really just to align it one time and then lock all this stuff down. I mean, you don't need to do a whole lot more once you get it forward and reverse tracking properly. This entire situation, you could probably lock it down and not need to dial this knob back and forth much. The good news is if you do need to retune something, say you've got a belt that's stretched, or you're changing belts like to a Scotch-Brite belt, surface conditioning belt, cork belt, whatever it might be, and you cannot get it to track the way you want to, you could use this knob to get you there, and get you there quick. So that's kind of the whole point of this, and I think some of the people that were looking at my drawings didn't fully understand what my end goal for this was, and the end goal is to just really get your grinder tuned properly. And especially with us guys, building a lot of home built grinders with tube steel and things, sometimes things are not true. They're not right, 90 degrees and so on. And hey, that is what it is. Not every grinder is going to be perfectly straight. This solves that issue, because now you can really get it going, and you can do it on the fly while the device is turned on and moving. This knob over here keeps your hand away from the belt, so you're able to adjust it as you go. So I am happy with this. That's great. Does exactly what I want it to do. So next step, I think, for this is we're going to put the tracking wheel on it and actually mount it on a revolution and see if we can make it work. So one of the things I want to try is to see what kind of, how many degrees we can raise and lower this device before I throw it on the revolution. So we've got about just under 3 in that direction. We got 9 in that direction. So there's probably some room for play here in this with this lock nut, so it is binding up a little bit. So we could probably adjust that just slightly and get a little bit more out of it, but I don't think there's a little more. I don't think we're going to need anywhere near that. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so essentially all I've done now is just mounted it in the Revolution prototype, and this prototype is kind of out of whack, you know, because it's my first one I ever built. So it's a little bit tougher to tune than some of the other grinders I've built, because those are a little bit more true. This one is a little cattywampus, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I mounted it on the Revolution. Haven't really done much with it. Just kind of, I'm eyeballing things and looking at, like, the, you know, making sure this wheel is level with this wheel just from my eye. And then I'm going to roll the belt towards me and see, you know, it's wanting to walk off to the right a little bit. And I see if I turn this way, I can get it to kind of come back towards me, which is kind of cool. That might be a little too much. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm actually going to kick it on forward in about 20%. That looks pretty good and forward. Let's throw it in reverse. Without touching anything, I'm just going to throw it in reverse. Yeah. Small minor adjustments that I can make. Walk that belt back over. Dial it in just a little bit. Go back to forward. That's it. It's tuned. So just took me a minute to get everything all lined up. And now that I've got everything lined up, I'm just going to lock down these bolts up top here. I feel confident that that's a good position. Forward. Reverse. And what I'm looking at is how the belt is tracking across the platen. And it's tracking both forward and reverse dead center on the platen. To me, that's what I care about. It's tuned. Yes, I call this a success. Just want to give you a close-up of what this is actually doing. You can see here, turning it to the left, pulls the whole mechanism towards itself, and then pushing it out to the right, it pushes the entire mechanism back out again. So you have, you know, a lot of control right here inside of this, and once this is set, you basically lock down these 3 bolts and you forget it. So it's as simple as that. I'm sure there's a more elegant way of doing this, and if you know of anything, leave me a comment down below. I'm sure there's something else I could put in here that would perform this exact operation. Someone said maybe a turnbuckle, but I would think I would need that back here. So that's how it works. All right, give you a little bit of a different perspective here. I'm just gonna show you what it looks like. I'm gonna put it on 20% forward. You see everything is real nice and plain, laying up nice and almost in the center of the tracking wheel. Not too terrible. A little to the left, we could probably get a little bit more adjusting out of it, but I'm pretty happy with it. And then we're gonna go ahead and hit reverse. And you can see she's staying right where it needs to be. That's, in my head, that's a perfectly tuned grinder. I don't have to play with it forward or reverse. Everything's nice and tight and locked down. Now I'm going to loosen up this mechanism so you can see from that perspective what it looks like while I'm adjusting this fine tuner. Put it in forward, and I'm just going to play with this knob a little bit. And you can see I can really get I could walk it out that way if I want. A little further. Go back the other direction. Even further. And then I have this big knob. I can play around with the direction that way as well. So you can see how powerful something like this is. By just playing with it just a little bit to kind of get things where they need to be and then locking them down. And just for giggles, let's go ahead and throw it in reverse. So the device works. It's not the most elegant way, I think, of doing it, but I'm on the right track, I think. So if you, like I said, if you have some ideas as to how I could improve this thing, please leave me a comment down below, and we'll kind of work that out together. The device does exactly what I want it to do. It's a fine-tuning mechanism. I mean, if you have tracking problems with your grinder, this is going to be the solution for you, I think. And it's something you could probably build on your own. Now, I know people are going to ask me, how do I get one of these things? And I'm not really sure yet. Plasma cutting them is probably not the best idea. I mean, you could do it and it would be okay and it would function, but it wouldn't be as precise as I'd like it to be. I would think laser cutting it would make more sense. So I'm going to reach out to my guy in Dallas and see if we can get a few of these made, and if they sell, we'll just keep making them. And also, I will most likely add the plans for them up on my website. It won't be in addition to the plans for the Revolution. I will make this sort of a secondary set of plans for relatively inexpensive. So if you decide you want to support my work, you could go out to my website and buy those plans and build your own. And of course, it'll come with a DXF file and so on, like all my other plan sets do. So I really want to encourage you to improve your tracking one way or the other on your grinder. It'll help you be more efficient with whatever you're doing in your workshop. Tracking has been the topic of conversation in so many different forums that I'm on and emails I get. And I just felt like this was something I really needed to spend a lot of time on and solve, because I get so many questions about tracking. And the easier I can make tracking on you, who is the end user, even if you don't build the Revolution, you build your own grinder, if I can give you some knowledge, pass on some of that wisdom and whatever I've discovered here in my workshop, it's gonna help you. It'll help you, build your grinder better and use your grinder more efficiently. So that was my goal. And so if you got something out of today's video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And if you click that little bell, you'll get a notification every time I upload something to YouTube. Now, there's many ways to support my channel, and you can do that by going to my website, housemade.us. You can buy the parts and the pieces and the plans for the Revolution 2x72. There's Patreon, there's Buy Me a Coffee, there's all those things that help support the work I do. And I really would truly appreciate that if you're able to do so. Listen, guys, I hope to see you on the next video. My name is Brian House, and this has been Housework.